We're
Now,
live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by the Bearded Men of Real Estate. I am Ray. Say hi, Dan.
hi, Dan.
And that's Dan. He's been my co-host for over 4 years now. We started this in the October-ish time frame 4 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
Are we counting the first 3 we tried to do on YouTube or no?
So YouTube Live had just released, and we were like, oh, we're going to be major players on this thing called YouTube Live. And we launched our show so that people could interact with us live on YouTube. And there was no one. I don't even know that anyone watched.
It was just me and Ray with, I think we both had, we were just using the internal cameras, right?
Yeah, internal cameras. And did we have a microphone? I think I had a microphone at that time. I think you were using whatever iPhone mic type phone thing.
I didn't have anything.
Yeah, so we've come a long way. So we really appreciate you guys. We're actually broadcasting in 3 different places right now. We're live on Facebook. You can find our Facebook page there. I also found a cool way to link our podcast onto the Facebook. Oh, I wonder if that's where the 250 extra people came from. We had 250 people hit our podcast yesterday, and I was wondering why. I bet that's why. So now when podcasts are released, it will notify people on Facebook. Maybe that's where it came from. I have to try to track it down. We are also broadcasting live on YouTube, and wherever you are, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can comment, and then we could display your comment, just like Ellis Home Inspections is checking in with us. Matt Lamarche, he's there. He's also on Clubhouse. He says, hey, Beard. Julie Moon, she's in both places, says 4 years. I know we don't look that old, do we?
Nope.
D Jones on Facebook. She says, hey, Beards. Melissa Mara. It's a thing now, though. So that is true. They call that the Larsh effect. Yeah. With affection. Well, thank you guys for joining us there. We are also live on Clubhouse. So if you're looking for us on Clubhouse, you can go up to the search and search Real Estate Networking. That's one of the largest real estate clubs on Clubhouse, mainly for real estate professionals, real estate agents, lenders, appraisers, title folks. All those are all on Clubhouse in the Real Estate Networking Club. So please join that. Be sure you're following the club. That way you get alerted of great rooms like this one. I think tonight at 6 o'clock Central, I think it's 7 o'clock on the East Coast. They're going to be doing the real estate agent networking broker lounge and growth. It's a long title. If you're on Clubhouse, you can just click my face, and I think I'm on that one too. So you can see that one, and be sure you join us there. It used to be like when I was first introduced to Clubhouse, William Tong introduced me to it. And I was like, man, why are you on this all the time, William? It's just somebody trying to sell me something. Every single room I go to, they're just trying to sell me something or get me to join some kind of coaching program or trying to recruit me to something. And he said, no. You just have to find the right rooms. I said, okay, well, what rooms should I go to?
Yeah.
And he sent me to the Real Estate Networking Club, invited me there, and we found the broker lounge. And it's just been an awesome time to develop relationships over time with people that are kind of like-minded. I was talking with someone yesterday. I was like, it's like everyone there has, the same type of business mindset, but also they're not just networking with you to like check a box and say they networked and try to get all your contact information to sell you something later. They're genuinely wanting to network with you and get to know you. And so it's just become a pretty cool place there. So if you're if you're on Clubhouse and you're like, ugh, I'm tired of all these people trying to sell me something, you might not be in the right room. So check that there. And, I have a link right now on my Instagram. If you go to Instagram, Ray Zorback, it's right here at the bottom, RayZorback. In my stories, there's a link there. So if you want to join us on Clubhouse, you can just hit the stories and hit the link that's there too. Christina in Smallhorn, she's checking in. She said Clubhouse can be fun. Some rooms are just puffing themselves. Yes.
Well, she makes a good point. But what you can do is the people that you like, that you respect, that you want to follow, it's just like YouTube. You can click follow and then you can hit the bell. So you're notified anytime they talk in a room, and then you'll be notified. You can go into that room and follow them or listen along. And usually the value comes from those, not just the spammy, puffy ones.
Yeah. And Peggy, she says, hey, friends, check listening on Clubhouse and watching on Facebook. There you go. Christina, we have a story that's going to be really relevant to you. FHA, they have a new, they're giving their manufactured housing loan program a facelift. So it's one of the last stories we're going to cover today, and we're going to have to go pretty quick. But if you can stick around for that, I'd love to get your opinion on it as well. Speaking of news, we're going to talk about Zillow. They sold 2,000 of their homes that we've been talking about. They had like 7,000 homes. They sold 2,000 of them to one buyer. I probably got a good deal. They and it was a big institutional type investor who investors like that have spent over 63 billion on properties in the third quarter. So we're going to talk about that. Los Angeles wants to ban the iBuyers and private equity. So we'll see if they even can do that. I don't know how they would start to do that. Rent and single family homes. We're going to talk about a surge in rents. Homebuilder confidence is up, of course, because supply's super low. We're going to talk about housing, how that fell.
It's got squashed.
The housing starts got squashed. I mean, that was our fall. I was telling Dan before we started the show, it's like, I'm having trouble coming up with that idea. He was like, fall. It should be something about fall. I was like, of course, squash. So we're going to see if housing got squashed. And SQ words were in my brain. Do you know why they were in my brain, Dan?
Why?
Because a famous squatter's plan was squandered.
There you go.
We mentioned this guy who was in this house for, I think at the time it was like 20 years. And we talked about him in brief, and we said, how are they going to get him out of there? They got him out of there. So now he's been in there 23 years, and we get to take a peek inside the house. So that's going to be
it was probably like, dude,
it's
been a good run. I'm going to move on now. They didn't get him out. He left.
Well, kind of. I mean, they did like lock him out and take all his stuff, and I don't know. We'll read the article and show you a peek into his home. We're also going to talk about the National Association of Realtors passing a listing attribution policy, and if that has any impacts on like Zillow, Trulia, Redfin,
or
any of those third-party websites that are trying to generate leads for other people besides the listing agent, or you, Mr. and Miss Real Estate Agent, who has a website that you send your clients to so that they can search for a home. There's some big changes to the IDX feeds that you might want to be aware of. And just to make sure you're covering your bases and you're compliant and no one tattletales on you. Because that happens. Okay.
Do you see they removed his things and he has until whatever day to get them out of a storage place? So they took his stuff out.
You know, the Storage Wars show? Like this is ideal for Storage Wars. Like, let's go bid on that one.
This dude will get a book deal and will get a documentary made
it's
about him.
Definitely going to be a Vice on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. If you don't want to go through any banter that we're about to go through, I'm trying to catch up beforehand. You can, and you're watching this on the replay, you can always go down to the description and there's a timestamp and then the headline. And so if you're wondering like, ooh, I just want to get right to this headline about FHA giving manufactured housing a facelift, you could click that timestamp and it'll zoom you right to that portion. You can also subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel, and hit the bell. And we'll take each one of those stories and we'll chop them up into smaller bite-sized pieces of content we call chops. It's a facial hair reference. And then we'll release those over the week. And so if you happen to miss something, that's a great way to catch up on it there too. Ryan Booker says future legal textbook material. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, when the legal strings he had to pull to stay there for that long, it's incredible. And it's incredible that it was somehow loopholed and allowed. So yeah, I agree.
Or did he just say no for 23 years? No.
I mean, what are they going to do? They'd have to eventually forcibly remove him, but nobody was willing to do that for some reason. I don't know. We'll get into this stuff and why. All right, Dan, before we dive into these big headlines, would you tell people what this show is actually all about?
You know what? I'd love to. Now, when I met Ray here on the interwebs long time ago,
5 years now?
Excuse me.
I mean, it was a good while before we actually launched the show.
Yeah, we knew each other for a year and a half.
Years, yeah.
So it's been a long time. I had an idea for a show because I am in fact a bearded man of real estate myself. But when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What's that, Dan?
He's never sold a house that smells like cat pee. Never, not once. They've all been perfect, every single house.
I wouldn't say perfect, but the one time I did list the house that was kind of cat pee-ish, I did require them to do a full clean top to bottom, shampoo, carpets, everything. In part because when I went over there for the listing appointment, I could barely speak because every time I opened my mouth, I was about to vomit. It was
We
bad.
had one of those that was so drenched in cat pee that it was, and I'm allergic to cats, and I have 2 cats, so it's flaring up a little bit today. But this was so gnarly that we were like the smell was intense, and we were like, dude. And my partner, my broker, he's a cat person. He's not allergic to them, and he was like, dude.
Christina Forward says, I sold dog pee home and it became a viral video that haunted me.
You just wanted to
go. Patrick Ellis, he says,
Oh.
perfect. Yeah, it's bad. So I sat down for the listing presentation as fast as I could. I did a very short home tour. It was so bad. And I started visiting with them at the kitchen, which I kind of thought was a safe place. They had a fan on. And then I looked up at the fan and realized that those fan blades were actually pretty small. The dust and hair on them was just kind of flapping in the wind. And then I started to notice particles coming around the room and landing on things like my iPad. And so I was like blowing off and dusting off my iPad during the presentation.
So they just kicked that on for you. They're like, oh, we better turn the fan on.
Yeah, we better turn it on. We know our house is not fresh. I'm like, boy, not fresh is not the word. But with professionalism and grace, I let them know that their house stunk.
That you need to clean the house. But okay, obviously I noticed that he's a beautifully bearded man, but I noticed that he also loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but to humans in general. So the show's about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Ryan Boker says, you're an MVP for selling that house.
That's too far. Ryan, you got to go.
He'll see himself out.
Yeah, just
and one of the reasons that we think being more means that you watch this show so you know what in the world is going on.
And you can give us
gracefully handling cat pee houses, which maybe we should do these like Be More special segments. Yeah. But besides that kind of stuff, knowing what is going on can help you advise your client on what they are supposed to do with perhaps their largest investment that they make their entire life. And if you really think about it, if somebody's spending 5 to 10 years in a house, that's like 10% of their life. That's crazy. Yeah. And the decisions you make and how you counsel them affects where they spend 10% of their life on earth. So if you know what's going on with builders and you know what's going on with housing, what's happening with Zillow, then maybe, just maybe by spending an hour with us, it will help you give them a little bit better advice. And that's why we do the show.
45 minutes. You know, there's a bunch of banter that people, much maligned banter. Yes. But other than that, yes, we'll give you as much info as we can.
All right, you ready to get in?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. All right, and first up,
refreshing.
Oh, the ice in my ice maker just dropped. First up, let's talk about Zillow. We talked a little bit last week how they had how many, like 7,000 houses to sell. Now it's down to 5. So they've sold 2,000 homes as a flipping business ends. This article is from Bloomberg. It's republished on Yahoo Finance. Yahoo.
I say Yahoo. You can say Yahoo.
Okay. Zillow Group reached an agreement to sell about 2,000 properties from its home flipping business that's winding down to a New York-based investment firm, Petrium Partners, LLC. It'll purchase the homes according to a person with knowledge of the matter. Petrium owns more than 70,000 rental houses in the U.S., making it the second largest single-family landlord behind Invitation Homes Incorporated. Quote, Petrium has long been committed to providing quality housing options for residents. The company said in a statement, at a time when move-in ready homes are in short supply, we continue to invest in communities and improve access to housing throughout the U.S. That's an interesting twist. Like, by
the way, can you go back to the article?
Yeah.
Because it's not 7,000 homes. Keep scrolling down.
Where? Do they have more than 7,000? Oh,
they have 20,000 to sell.
Wait. The business hit a major snag in recent months. Zillow tweaked its algorithms to make more aggressive offers, causing it to overpay for houses just as the heated U.S. real estate market began to cool slightly. Now it's not even cool. It's just like it's like when you get your coffee and you just blow the coffee. That's about how cool the market is right now.
It's cool enough to drink now, but it still burns my mouth.
Yeah. So then the next, this is interesting. Now, comma, Zillow has roughly 18,000 homes to unload in the coming months.
So that means they had 20,000 to unload.
So what were the other articles that we covered were only talking about 7,000. So this
That
is
was
a
just
story
their
that we need to look into more.
Remember, that was just their first chunk they were trying to get rid of. They're like, okay, cool. We're going to undo this whole thing. Let's start with 7,000. But this is the first article to say they have 20,000. Well, now 2,000 less to do.
What's the average price in the United States?
Was it 364 last time we checked or something?
Yeah, let's go with it. 364,000
times.
It was in the 360s. That is 1, 2, 3, comma 1, 2, 3, comma 1, 2, 3, comma. That's $7.28 billion. And they got rid of 2,000 of them. So they basically got rid of what is it? 7 million.
That's 10%, right?
They got rid of 1, 2, 3, comma 1, 2, 3, 728 million.
So okay,
it's so big. I need to count my digits. Make sure I'm accurate.
I want to make sure that we're all asking this question, because this is the first question I thought when I read this. Because it says they're going to sell 2,000 homes. I'm like, dude, that's great. That's going to help all of these areas with limited inventory. And then I started reading in the article, and they're selling it to Pretoria or whatever it is.
Petrium.
So instead of, okay, go with me here. They bought these homes at most likely an increased price, right?
Yeah.
Now these become new comps. They've helped exacerbate the market a little bit, as we've covered on the show, right?
Yep.
They could at least have the decency to sell them to regular, normal, quote unquote, normal buyers. But no, they sell them to these massive investors that are just going to turn them into rentals, which we got a story coming up in a little bit. That market's totally insane as well. How does this help anyone, Zillow?
I'm sorry. I don't think you heard the Petrium. Petrium has long been committed to providing quality housing options for residents at a time when move-in ready homes are in short supply. We continue to invest in communities and improve access to housing throughout the U.S.
Okay, my bad. That makes everything fine, but I still want to know
why.
That's
good. I mean, as far as reframing what you do as an investor, that's good. I mean, so I'm not going to knock the investor though, because I think it was
they're doing what they're doing.
Like, I wish I had like $2 billion to pick up some homes for cheap. But apparently it's they have a lot more to sell. So if they just sold 2,000 to them, maybe the other 18,000 that'll be listed will go to people that maybe it'll help, weaken the supply shortage, strengthen the supply.
So I'm going to say they won't do that, that they're going to sell to more investors. I'm going to put money on that they're going to do exactly what they did, sell them in chunks, because they need to turn these over quick. They can't list them, or do they just, because they already had Zillow agents, by the way. We had one around here that is the Zillow agent. Dude, at any given time had 600 listings. What's happened to that? What happens to that dude if now all of those listings are going to Pretorium LLC?
Petrium.
I think it's Pretium.
I don't know.
Anyway, they're big, but what happens to all this? Zillow, I have these questions. I have major questions, but it's the same thing. You're right with the investor, right? It's like, what's that story about the frog that helps the scorpion swim across the thing?
The frog and the frog and the scorpion. You know this?
Yeah, of course. He's like, I'm not going to help you because you're going to bite me. You're going to sting me. He's like, no, I'm not.
I've shared that with so many people, and they're like, what? What? And frog and scorpion?
And then the frog goes, okay, fine. And he helps him across the stream. And then we get across the stream. What does he do? He stings him. And the frog goes, wait, you said you wouldn't. He goes, but I'm a scorpion. It's what I do. So that's the shortened, dumbed down version. But that's what I mean. We can't blame the investor. They're like, yeah, we'll take 2,000 homes.
Heck yeah. And not only that, the people on the board, the people that are investing with them, if they have REIT stuff going on, then they have to make smart moves. Absolutely. And I mean, this is definitely a smart move for them.
Absolutely. But I'm questioning Zillow. And now they have 18,000 more that could really help relieve, strengthen inventory shortages. What?
All right, so let's go to why this happened, and then we'll back up and talk a little bit more about the investors side of this coin. So Zillow raced to catch up with Open Door in a secret initiative project called Project Catch Up. This is a report from Business Insider, who honestly, if you've seen a lot of what's happening with Business Insider lately, you may or may not trust them full on as a source. Just look up the Barstool Sports and Business Insider stuff that's going on. So they kind of made me second guess even using Business Insider as a source, but we have Inman now who's quoting Business Insider for this report. It was on the Business Insider stuff. It sounded way more incendiary than what Inman makes it sound like. So I think maybe Inman toned it down a little bit. So basically, Project Catch Up, they wanted to catch up with Opendoor. A mad dash to catch up with its rivals that inspired a saucy nickname, damaged Zillow's relationship with repair contractors, and may have contributed to the failures of the company's iBuyer program, employee told Business Insider. Anonymous Zillow employees described the company's fast-paced efforts to gain market share over its rivals in the months leading up to the company shuttering its home flipping business. They called it Project Catch Up to catch up with Opendoor. We began to buy properties at an unreal rate. A current employee said in Southern California, we were buying 74% of the homes that they were asking for an offer. So if you put in an offer,
they bought it. Yeah.
75 or 74% of the time they would buy it. What Zillow offers executives wanted was a success rate in the 50 to 60% range. No one pumped the brakes. And if you recall, that's really one of the things that we talked about last time, is that it didn't seem like anyone was looking out for Zillow. And we even, I'm going to use the great word again, pontificated, that perhaps there were people and employees sitting in a cubicle somewhere saying, well, the initiative is to buy more homes. So let's just continue to buy homes. Let's buy more homes. We're going to buy more homes. And then, hey, congratulations, you guys bought homes. But no one was watching out for Zillow on the investment side because they were putting too much trust into the algorithm. Right. And as Gloria Stefan says,
the algorithm is going to get you.
So
all right. I don't like today. There's too much of this today. I don't like it.
So Zillow did begin to catch up, at least for a while. After buying 4,162 homes over the entirety of last year, the company upped its purchase total to 15,000 in the first 9 months of 2021 alone, according to the report.
So they caught up. They just said, we got to catch up. We got to buy houses. So they caught up that way. But the preview article states the decision to abandon home flipping came as the company's third quarter results showed it lost more than $380 million in the operation. $380 million. So they're like, well, they told us to buy houses, so we're buying houses. But wait, we've lost $380 million. Oh, okay. So
and the article goes into more about the relationship with contractors and how homes were, they would take longer to fix because they weren't doing the initial stuff.
I think those are all small byproducts, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a byproduct of just going too fast and not having the what's the word I'm looking for? The infrastructure to maintain the quality that they were looking for. And there was someone that said, an anonymous source, people were starting to say that this house doesn't look like a Zillow house. It's not even fixed up. I mean, if you've been listening to the show, we've been talking about Opendoor and iBuying programs, Zillow programs, and real estate agents have come onto our show and said, the 5 homes we showed, you could tell which one was the iBuyer because they just don't take the care and attention that a regular real estate agent would, or that a regular seller would.
Well, even just in a seller lived there and has had the home for 35 years and never upgraded it. That house is still in better shape than these iBuyer homes. I mean, I did some research specifically for Opendoor. I sent Ray a screenshot and I found one house. There's a bunch of them this way though. They bought the house for $625, listed it at $660. It was on the market, and this is listed. When was it, Ray? I think it was listed in May, like end of May. It sat for 135 days while they lowered the price. Finally sold it for $590. They're underwater on that one property by $35,000. And that's just one property, and that's Opendoor. So I can't see this ending well for Opendoor either, because they were trying to compete with Zillow. Zillow tried to catch up. So Opendoor bought more. And if Zillow couldn't get the homes flipped or whatever, how is Opendoor doing it? I don't see this ending well. I just don't.
It turns out they didn't really have the mustard.
Oh,
So, so does anyone in Clubhouse want to comment about the future of Zillow right now as you see it? Do you think this is going to have a disparaging impact on where they're headed? Are they going to be able to recover really quickly from this? We talked about it being 7,000 homes. I see Shawnee, you unmuted, so
there's
I'll come to you.
18,000 more.
There's 18,000 homes. So does this change your opinion about kind of where they are today? Shawnee, I'm coming to you.
I was just thinking that, it was just so interesting that you just went over the example of $35,000 on the home. That's just the selling price. What about the carrying cost all that time? What if the high tax state, all these different things that are not even showing up, municipal fees and certificates of occupancy. It's crazy. So they're underwater a lot more than just the monetary shortage in the pricing if they paid over.
And there was someone on Clubhouse talking about the spreads that Zillow had. And they were saying, well, as they closed properties, they saw the pages and they were making money. They're making, 50% on the profit versus what their expenses were. But even that, you're not taking into account the other business expenses to acquire the property, to market, to run the whole iBuying operation, as it were. So I still think, they were posting losses. So you don't post losses, but then secretly have profit. That doesn't make sense to me.
No.
Anna, you jumped up here. Did you want to say something about Zillow in particular, or were you just joining us?
I just joined, and
okay.
I think it's funny, all the posts that I see, all the negative statements from realtors. They were just so happy to see Zillow bomb. But honestly, at the end of the day, they had no effect on the business I'm doing, and
right.
Kudos to them
for
trying.
Here's the main impact that they could have had in some markets is that they sucked up the supply that would have been available to someone else. But you could argue and say, well, those are homes that wouldn't even have been on the market if they couldn't have got the insane offer from Zillow to begin with. You could also argue that those insane offers increase the purchase price, making it more difficult for people to afford homes in certain markets because they weren't actually buying them at a discount. So I don't know. I think there was some impact. However, I agree with you. Overall, it didn't necessarily impact the exact business I'm doing, but they've still mastered search for consumers. And I think if they were to double and triple down on that, they would be great and unstoppable and get out of the investing business because it's a totally different business.
Well, and remember what I said? When did they stop this? Last week or 2 weeks ago?
No, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I can't keep it all together. But anyway, what I said was, hey, and I hate to have Zillow's back on things, but I did. I was like, they're trying to do something very different. And they've been doing this for a long time. They changed how you search for homes since 2007, and they've tried to do a lot of different things, try to do all in-house. They're breaking ground on a lot of things. So you got to break a lot of eggs to make an omelet. And I think for them, 380 million is like, well, we broke a lot of eggs, but, and now we're going to offload things, so, they were trying to do something different. They honestly, I do believe that they are trying to make it more convenient, or they were trying to make it more convenient for a buyer. Just what they did want to be. Remember what we used to always say, Ray? They want to be the Amazon of real estate. They want to just, you push a button and you buy a house.
Right.
They really wanted to do that. And then all these other, these other ones, Open Door and all these other ones, they're behind them, after them. But Zillow wanted to be that one-stop shop. And, hey, it didn't work.
But so I said whenever they had 7,000 properties, we did the math on it and said, well, that's a little over $2 billion or somewhere in that price range. And mishandling $2 billion in assets is a pretty big deal. Well, mishandling 7.28 billion dollars is an even bigger deal. So I'm wondering if this is going to lead to some kind of restructuring. Does the board still have confidence in Rich Barton?
Yeah, under whose watch? Who gets blamed for this?
Yeah.
Is it who started it or who didn't execute right? I love this comment, by the way.
Christina and Smallhorn. I need some clarification though. Them because who's they? Her quote is Redfin CEO said they couldn't get contractors to fix them because they are smoking dope. He literally said that.
And if you've spoken to her or been on her show or watched one of her videos, you can hear her say that. He literally said that.
Oh man, I'm googling Redfin dope Zillow right now.
Yeah, is there a report on
Yeah, it's gonna put me on the watch
Refkin?
list.
Refkin said something
No, it's not.
about.
It's who's the Redfin? Glenn Kelman.
Oh yeah, Kelman. Sorry, I always get them
Glenn
mixed up
Kelman.
because Redfin and Refkin.
All right, let's go. Kelman dope Zillow.
This is everyone's favorite part of the show when
Funny.
we live search
Live.
for news.
We'll find it. We'll find it. This is funny.
When news breaks, we find it.
Oh, he said she said it was on CNBC. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Melissa Marr says, I like how Ray counts out loud how I read big numbers in my head. I'm not the only one. I just want to make sure, this is a news show. This is a serious show. We want to make sure we're
It has to be correct.
We're accurate on this stuff. All right.
You can't accidentally say 7.28 million.
Million. That's a million. Then YouTube will light me up in the comments. All right. All right. So the next story for my next trick.
I'm going to pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Investors spent a record $63 billion to buy homes. You would think it's like in all of 2021, all of 2020,
the whole year, right? That's the whole year.
No, investors spend a record $63 billion to buy homes in the third quarter of this year.
What?
This report comes to us from Housing Wire. In total, they acquired 90,215 homes, an 80.2% increase year over year, Redfin analysis found, plus an extra 2,000 that were just bought. Redfin investors spent a record 63.6. Real estate investors spent a record $63.6 billion to purchase homes in the third quarter. That's up 78% from a year earlier.
Whoa. These all seem like big numbers, by the way. They all do.
They all seem like big numbers, Dan, because they are.
Scroll down to the bottom.
In September, the median home price increased 13.9% year over year. Meanwhile, the average monthly rents rose 10.7% in the same period in that last 2 years. I'm hearing a bit of an echo. I don't know where it's from. But the expectation is that the situation may be better for non-investor home buyers as the housing market has started to cool down. Again, this cooling that they're talking about is really just, I think, a reframing of expectations, where instead of having 20 offers, now you're getting 7. A couple of months ago, I was getting 10. I'm getting like 7 to 5, but they're still at or above list. Shawnee was saying, though, yesterday that it's a little bit, at list price or below. So one of the things I want to do is go around Clubhouse, just do a quick around the horn. How's the market? Is it still up and saying seller's market, or is it buyer's market in your market? In total, real estate investors spent 18.2% on U.S. homes purchased on the third quarter, 7 basis points higher than a year earlier. Where was the thing that you wanted to pull out of the article?
Right there, that second to last paragraph.
Though there's been much hand-wringing over the impact of institutional investors' play in the housing market, the typical investor is usually a small and local. Institutional investors are estimated to own roughly 2% of the U.S. single-family homes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to point out. So 63 billion seems like a lot, and it is a lot of money, but they're not taking over your neighborhood. They own 2% of the houses, and I love that they made the point about the typical investor is usually local, and he owns 5 houses, 10 houses, 20, but he doesn't own. He's not spending 63 billion like Pretium or whatever.
Petrium.
Pretium.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
but it's still like 2%. 2% is a lot, though. I mean,
absolutely,
that's a chunk. So when it says investors spent a record 63 billion to buy, they're not talking about strictly institutional investors. They're talking about the small investors only own a couple of properties here and there.
Right.
But I'm at the same time, I'm getting asked by buyers, Dan, well, is now a good time to buy with prices being so high? How are investors making these acquisitions and can live with them over time and into the future?
It depends on what they're looking to do. Are they looking to rent it out and then sell it? Are they looking to flip it?
Keep talking like that. No, that's a That's a good question, Dan. That brings us to the next article. And then let's go around the horn and talk about what's happening in people's markets. It mentioned it a little bit in the last article that we just covered, but we'll bring it here too. This one is from CNBC. Rent for single family homes surged 10% in September. In September alone, boosted by pricey for sale market and job growth.
Gosh, so many pop-ups.
I know, a lot of pop-up ads. Love them. Rents for single family homes increased 10.2% nationally in September year over year, up from 2.6% rise in September of last year, according to a new report from CoreLogic. Improved job growth and sky-high prices in for sale housing market added to really strong demand for single family rentals. 93% of consumers said they believed owning a home was a good investment, according to a separate CoreLogic report. Single family rental vacancy rates remained at a 25-year low in the third quarter of 2021, pushing annual rent growth to double digits in September. Rent growth should continue to be robust in near term, especially as labor markets improve. The demand for larger homes continues. You can find all the details about that in the specific markets and the lower price, lower middle price, high price, all that stuff at CNBC. So check out that article. Dan, are you guys experiencing that in your area? Are you seeing an increase in rentals?
Yeah, rents are way up. And so that what it's doing for me is it's people, those local small investors. Sorry, my cat's bonking. There you go. Hi. There she is. That's Angel. Say hi, Angel. Well, it's those people that have been thinking about buying that second home for their rental. Don't kick those. That's bad kitty. Now they're doing that. They're like, hey, interest rates are low and I can, potentially buy a house for hopefully not too crazy, like a condo or something, and then rent it out and get my investment back quicker.
So apparently the investors that are investing are still making making good money. So as we have home buyers that are looking to buy, it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to buy in this market. Let's see. So Tim brought up a good point about the Zillow ownership, institutional investors and stuff. He did say, but it's upwards of 20% in some zip codes. So depending on the area, maybe 2% of the world or the nationwide real estate market is owned by the institutional investors. Tim does bring up a good point by saying it could be 20% in some zip codes. That's Tim Lucas. He also runs a real estate news show here on Clubhouse. Hey, Elkin, I see that your hand's raised, but I can't bring you up. So it's not even down here in the bottom for me to bring you up. So feel free to come on up. You may have to exit the app and come back to it. All right. So let's go around the horn real quick. Let's start if Matt LaMarche is available. Let's bring up Matt LaMarche. Tell us what's happening in your market, Matt. Is it still a crazy seller's market, or is it kind of softened a little bit for buyers? Do you have buyers that are more easily able to acquire these properties? Is it all institutional investors' fault in your market? What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely, Ray. So here in the Atlanta market over the last, I'm just looking at like the last 90 days, a lot of movement and most of it downward. So the median price, average price are down about $10,000 to $20,000. And that's on an average price point of anywhere from like 450 down to about 425. So not huge, 5% ish, but kind of the same range on the median price. So right in the middle. What we have seen though, as far as the institutional, and I don't know if you guys realize this or if anyone else has noticed this, but on Zillow now, at least here in the Atlanta area, before you could not search by Zillow's properties. So in other words, I couldn't tell whether or not that was Zillow owned or otherwise. And the other platforms like OfferPad and Open Door, if you went to theirs, you could actually filter those out. Now Zillow has that, at least here in the Atlanta area. So it's kind of, I'm throwing at you from a lot of places, but as far as new inventory goes, though, we haven't really seen a huge influx, but we've seen a ton of price reductions over the last 90 days.
Where do you see? So I'm looking right now. I'm on the Zillow website. I see homes for sale, new construction, foreclosures coming soon, for sale by owner, recent home sales. Is there like a tab that says for sale by Zillow?
There's not actually. So at least here in Atlanta, and again, I'll just use my zip code of 30328. When I look and I zoom into the city, you'll see like a little Z next to the actual price. And it should
Oh,
just be preloaded now. I don't know if that was something they recently added or otherwise, because I'd never noticed it in the past. And again, every other platform, which I think is really smart, and like Dan was saying, give credit where credit's due. If Zillow is thinking for the future of their listings, they should identify where their listings are. I mean, I think toggling back and forth on that would actually add a lot of benefit to people that are strictly searching for those homes.
yeah, that's really interesting. Well, thank you for the market update.
I don't have that.
I don't have it yet. That would be cool though.
Yeah.
I don't think Zillow had any properties in our area to begin with. We're kind of a chill market. Let's see. Julie just jumped up. Amanda, are you in a market right now? You'd be market agnostic at the moment, but you could still chime in and tell us kind of what you hear and what your clients are experiencing if you're available. Nope. Okay.
Hey, yeah, can you hear
Oh
me?
yeah.
I'm on the road. Sorry, I just want to make sure
Yeah, I got you.
I'm not red bar. That's cool. So Tampa Bay, yeah, and in terms of average price point, I mean, we're up like 21%. We're sitting at a current or median price, I should say, it's 410. Average days on market, I mean, we don't even have, God, I mean, literally selling properties 24 hours, inventory, not even a month's worth of inventory. And in terms of rentals, it is absolutely outrageous. So unfortunately, I'm actually a product of that right now. And I'll tell you, I'm like greater Tampa Bay area, and I just moved from like the downtown St. Pete area. I was living in a luxury high rise. And when I got my renewal, literally it went from 1875 to 2460. Non-negotiable.
Wow.
I mean, like it's like what, 700 and something dollar increase. So it's crazy the prices that are jacked up for rentals here.
That's wild. Wow. Okay, Anna, tell us about PA. What's happening?
Can never get to that mic button fast enough. So I'm in Chester County, PA. I'm about 40 minutes west of Philly. I cannot get over the rental market here. It's more challenging to rent an apartment for any applicant. 100 applicants to any apartment. And the scrutiny is just ridiculous, which is probably also what's feeding into now is a great time to buy, because even those who are waiting for the perfect home, they've got to live somewhere. And so they wind up purchasing simply because they just can't get that rental, especially if they have any type of special needs or pets or too many pets or whatever that may be. As far as pricing, I think there's more of a knee-jerk reaction from realtors that are overpricing homes because they're being dictated by the consumer. So and so sold for so much, and really just leading that, and rather than educating their clients as to the importance of pricing right, I think really those are the ones that you're seeing price reduction after price reduction. Because while I'm getting fewer offers per listing, we're certainly getting asking or above, more often above. We continue to get very clean offers, waived contingencies, and the such, with a lot of mortgage contingencies being waived as well. Not necessarily they're coming with a bag of cash, but because they are very well qualified buyers who are getting appraisal waivers from their bank. They're putting considerable amount down and willing to even waive the mortgage contingency to get the home. So my sellers are still very happy. They're getting more than they expected. But I think one of the worst things you could do in this market is overprice the listing.
Nice. Thanks for the info. So we're going a little round robin, just doing a quick update on what's happening. We haven't done this in a long time. So we're just kind of hearing what's happening around the country. Jennifer, you're next. You're in Austin, Texas. Just give us a quick synopsis. What's happening to home prices? Are you seeing buyers able to pick more up, or home prices softening? What's going on? Are you there?
I am here. Thanks for hosting today, guys. Let's see what's happening in Austin. Our average sold price has up almost 21% versus last year at this time in Austin proper. And when we look at the sort of like what we call the 5-county area in and around Austin, we're up by about 12. And what's really interesting about when we look at our October MLS stats, almost 3,000 houses were sold, which is less than the same time last year during the Big P. However, what we are is on par with October 2019. So I'm not sure if that's signaling sort of a return to regularity, if you will. But we definitely have, sales appreciation beginning to slow. I don't have the final numbers yet for October, but when we
Home
looked at
price gains.
September, I had 11 zip codes in and around Austin that were up on a median house price point by 50% versus a year ago. 50%, which is like crazy when you think about that.
So it doesn't sound like it's slowing down that much. I wouldn't call that a cooling market, would you?
No, Austin is not cooling, and we continue to have more lists that we make of places to live, and as people are realizing that they can, live, work, love, and play anywhere. Austin is in the crosshairs of a lot of people right now. So I don't believe it is slowing down. However, I am seeing houses that are priced well are selling, right around that price. And we don't have the crazy like we did, even, 5 months ago, 4 months ago. So I think we are leveling off, and it'll be interesting to see how that runs through the holiday. And then, if spring market actually becomes spring market as it has in the past. And that's really where I'm kind of looking at is, what's going to happen in early 2022. So
Nice. Yeah, the key that you said there is houses that were listed well are still doing it. So I think that's the
Right.
difference. That's the blowing of the coffee cup that I was talking about when people are like, "Oh, the market's cooled." No, you've just poured a cup of coffee, you've blown it a little bit, and that's where we are today. Is that
Yeah.
an insanely priced home is going to have trouble selling finally.
I would definitely be able to attest to that. In Austin, we are seeing houses that have been on the market. Even I was even just looking at something for an investor today. It's been on the market for 2 weeks. It was on at 575 and came down to, by $25,000. So I think people are still trying and have toes in the water, and they're going to continue to try, and the market will salute, as is always the case. So I do believe that we have blown on the coffee.
We have blown on the coffee.
We've
That's going to be
blown
the
on the
new
coffee.
market barometer is the status of your coffee. That's
Yeah.
good. All right. And Justin, he's our Canadian correspondent. Justin, how is the entire Canada market? I know sometimes you're busy when you check in the show. Do you happen to be here today?
I am present. I was actually just telling my producer that you always support the rooms that I host. So I always want to make time and support the beard. And I also said in the back channel, Matt looks very vulnerable between the two of you on Clubhouse right now.
That's true. And on that note, Matt also changed his profile picture to show that you can toggle between Zillow own now. So that's cool too. So, all right, Justin. So what's up with the Canada market? Is it super hot still? Are you seeing insanely priced homes selling? Is it a little bit softer? Are buyers having better luck? What's going on?
Yeah, well, great timing for your room because we host the Canadian Real Estate Networking room every Wednesday at 11:30, and we chop it up on the market. Same patterns everywhere. It's shocking to me actually since I got on Clubhouse to see how similar things are across the nation, and I'm talking Canada, US. So the exact same patterns we're seeing: limited inventory, just buyer fatigue, agent fatigue. But what you said, I'm also noticing a lot too, is insanely priced homes are not getting the traction. So one stat I've been pulling and looking at is the actual showings are down significantly. So the average showings in an area, call it London West, 2 months ago was about 30 to 40 in a week, right? So if you're priced accordingly, you should be getting good traffic. We had a listing launch and it was in the 1.4 to 1.5 range. Everything in that area sells typically like 1.2 to 1.7. We had like 3 showings the first week. So I was just scratching my head looking at the data, and I pulled the data and there was only an average of 3 showings per week.
Huh.
And I don't know if that was a combination of buyer fatigue or Canadian Thanksgiving, But I did notice that I'm like, okay, sellers, be patient, right? Like where the data is showing us that we're right where we need to be. And then sure enough, I sold the thing after only 5 showings for a really, really good price for that area. So I think pricing strategy has to be dialed in. But I think you got to watch the data on a weekly basis, man. It's more important now than ever as an agent to be on your P's and Q's, because data that people are looking at a, call it monthly basis, it's getting old fast. So I'm looking at data sets on a weekly basis.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and that's one of the things that's the difference in a big iBuyer program and then an agent that's actually looking out for you, the seller, is that you have someone that's watching these things, it's looking at the data, and then now he could say, okay, so this happened this last time. It took 5 showings to get that transaction, that sale. However, we knew that we were confident in our price moving forward, and we didn't panic when we quote only had 5. We had the 5 that we needed, because you only need 1 buyer. And so when we list a home right now, we are seeing a decrease in showings in certain price points, but other price points is still a little bit insane. So the bottom 1/3 of the market is nuts. The middle part of the market is still good. And the top part is starting to slow down just a little bit, depending on where exactly that home is located. So I think that kind of echoes what you're saying, Justin, is that, and it may be, I guess you could call it buyer fatigue, or just maybe buyers being wiser of where the market is right now. And that, if they can only afford 500,000, they're not going to go see a house that's 500,000, because they know that in this market, they'd have to put a list price or above offer. They know that they're taking care of their own repairs, that they may have to do an appraisal gap, or, so I think they're saying, well, let's go with the 450 and then be the top dog on the 450 instead of trying for the 500 and missing out, and then missing the 450 that would have worked. So I totally echo what you're saying. So that's good info. Thanks for going around the horn a little bit. We haven't done that in a while. Also wanted to play Christina M. Smallhorn sent me a video. I hope we could play
Can
this.
you play it? Yeah, because I
don't wanna
watched
get
it
in
real
trouble.
quick. While you were going around the horn, I watched it real quick, and it's he says it.
I don't want to get in trouble with the YouTube, so we'll have to do a small. Let's see if we can, because you know how they do. Let's see. Redfin. Can you see that?
Yeah, go to 129
129
or 122 will work. It'll give us a little rundown.
Hang on.
Yeah,
I got to make sure I'm sharing my audio here. Bear with us. Share audio. Okay, good. Audio there. 129.
Bringing product to market. You also see that in the iBuying market. So Redfin, Zillow, Open Door, OfferPad, buy homes and then renovate them. And right now we can't get anybody to show up on site. They're either smoking dope, or sitting at home, or they're just busy with another project. And so the real challenge.
Straight up.
Basically, he's on national news saying that the contractors they use, they can't get them to show up because they're smoking dope.
Yeah. That's
wow. Okay. Yep. All right. Well,
I have a lot to say about that, but I'm going to hold it.
That's a little bit of an around the horn. Oh, Andy, he just joined us. Andy, are you available to hop up for just a second? I want to hear what's going on in your market specifically and what's happening. If not, that's fine. I didn't see him flash. All right. Well, if you are, flash your mic. I'll come to you in a bit. So let's talk about what LA is doing. We've talked a little bit about the institutional investors. We've talked about its effect on the marketplace specifically. LA is trying to ban iBuyers as a whole. So I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but Dan, I'm going to let you take this one since this is technically your market. What's going on and how are they going to do this?
Well, LA, Lower Arkansas is what this article is about.
Yeah,
oh, wait, that's the Los Angeles skyline. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. This is you.
I'll read along. So this is the Vice one, which is where we're going to see a future article or video about the renter we're going to cover.
The squatter guy. Yeah.
But amid a rapid arms race among high-tech corporations, private equity firms to buy up property and profit off red-hot housing market, the Los Angeles City Council has voted to explore ways to ban such companies from purchasing single-family homes. The council agreed on Friday to instruct the city legislative analyst and city attorney to produce recommendations on strategies through which technology companies and private equity firms can be stopped from engaging, and this is a quote from their from their agreement, engaging in speculative practices that involve purchasing affordable, predominantly single-family housing in the city of Los Angeles.
Huh.
And it does go on. I mean, it says, like many other cities, in the U.S., Los Angeles is grappling with a housing crisis. So it kind of covers a lot of that stuff that we all know. And then it does say, so the motion co-authored by city council members Nuri Martinez and Nithya Raman, I hopefully I got those right. They focus particular attention on high-tech house flippers known as iBuyers, which purchase moderately priced single-family homes, fix them up, and then resell them, or don't fix them up because the contractors are all smoking dope,
quote unquote.
I didn't say that, by the way. Someone else said that. Fix them up and then resell them, banking a convenience fee, and which is interesting. They know about this convenience fee, so they're not just saying, "Hey, they're buying up all our housing." They're saying they bank this convenience fee and any appreciation. Such companies have been in something of an arms race to scale up their operations, which we covered in the catch-up article. So there's not really much. It just kind of goes on to say that the market's been exacerbated. And then it mentions Zillow backing out, but it doesn't really say what they're going to do. So that's my question, Ray, and whoever else is listening or watching. How would they possibly do this? Is great that they want to do this. So I do have to say there's cities like Santa Monica, all over LA, that you cannot do Airbnbs. So people have found workarounds for that, but they did ban that. But how do you ban? Like, I don't know. Is it just
institutional purchasing?
How do you ban that? If it's, do you just look up all the institutional purchasers and ban, like, nope, you can't do that? And how?
And think about this:
how you could do that.
Think about somebody trying to sell one of those properties, right? It's in their best interest to get the highest possible offer. Yeah. And now you have the city coming out and say, "Well, we're going to ban a whole segment of buyers." I feel like there's going to be lawsuits from the sellers saying, "Well, our property would have sold for more." Had you not?
I know they were going to give you another 20 grand, but they're an institutional buyer and they can't purchase in the city anymore. But I want my extra 20 grand.
I just don't see this working any way possible. And we'll see you later, Christina. She's got to run. We are going to do that FHA article in a little bit, so be sure you comment on that later. I don't see that. I'm looking at the comments. I don't think anybody's got an idea of how that's going to work.
I don't know how they could. I don't know how you ban someone from buying a house, because it goes into that. Remember all the other articles that we've covered, which is like, okay, we're trying to do this program for these types of buyers. No one else can offer on these homes. But it was what it was called, Ray? Generational buyers.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like, well, how do you prove you're a first generation buyer?
They were going to give some kind of tax credit or benefit for the first generation buyer, and then there's a huge problem in proving that person's a first generation buyer.
Right. And my first question is, how do they stop? Just how, straight up, how do they stop them from purchasing? And then what about the sellers that want the money they were going to get from these institutional buyers?
It sounds good, but it might be against something called freedom. Good question from Amanda Dahl. Pardon me. She said she's curious if the slowdown in buyers is because a lot were forced to rent this year. Are you seeing that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think so. They signed a 6-month or year-long lease. Absolutely.
And now that they're in that lease, it's going to alter the time period in which they're purchasing.
Yeah. Well, and think about, if they're like, it's June, July, we got to get back to school. I got to get the kids somewhere. So we're just going to rent. That'll get us through the holidays and into next spring. And then we'll think about it again.
Yeah. You know who is happy about all this housing shortage?
No, I don't know. Who is it?
Homebuilders.
Oh, yeah, they're confident.
Their confidence surges in the past expectations. As a matter of fact, as demand remains high. Higher prices and longer wait times do not appear to be turning away buyers from the nation's home builders. With demand still surging, home builder confidence in the market for single-family homes rose more than expected in November to its highest level since May. Confidence rose 3 points to 83 on the National Association of Home Builders Wells Fargo Housing Market Index, HMI.
Is that surging though?
So the reason why it surged, I mean, I'm going to summarize this article for you. If you remember, whenever the home builder confidence tanked, quote unquote, like 2 or 3 points, right. The reason why it tanked is because it was a shortage of labor, shortage of materials.
Right.
Right. So now they still have a bit of shortage of material of labor, but the materials are starting to come through for them. I mean, lumber is no longer $1,600 per board foot. We haven't done a lumber price story in a long time, which means that it's not newsworthy and it's low. So I think that's the number one reason, is because they can finally get the materials that they're looking for and they can build. But I think they're still having a shortage of laborers. We continued intentionally restricting our home sales pace. We talked about that too, how they were kind of backing up on the pace that they were to align their new construction cycles with production levels and better ensure the certainty of home close dates for buyers. Lot availability is at a multi-decade low, so they need more land. Construction industry.
Keep going right there.
Yeah, it has more than 330,000 open positions. So that's kind of if those positions were filled, I think you'd see another increase in the home builder confidence, and they'd just be confidence out the wazoo. But
then you got that one guy saying they're all just smoking dope.
Yeah. Wow. Surely somebody's commented about it. I haven't seen anything, but surely someone's
going to get mad about that. But then you go to 330, not 330 jobs, 330,000
jobs available
open right now. So if you're looking for work and you want to, get a good workout all day, boom.
Well, technically we're near full employment. So
not in that industry.
All right. So we're going to hit these other articles pretty quickly. U.S. housing starts. They say that it falls unexpectedly. However, building permits increase. So this goes in line with what we were just talking about. The unexpected fall, in part, I don't know who expected them to rise, because we were seeing that the permits were not rising, but permits for future home building increased 4% at a rate of 1.65 million. Starts have declined from 1.725 million per unit pace in March, and was more than a 14 and a half year high,
which is great.
Yeah, so it's down a little bit from that. Lumber remains expensive, it says, but if we check, let's go a live lumber prices check. What does remains high mean? Because last time I checked, it was not high.
Well, remember pre-pandy, it was what, 400 board foot?
Yeah, but it got up to 1,600. It is currently now 712.
So
it did hit a low in August and September. It was down to $430 per board foot. Then orders probably increased. When orders increase, price goes up again. So that I was on the old article.
Right.
All right. So housing starts, just to summarize that one, housing starts fell in October, but building permits increased, telling us that there should be more building coming up. October mortgage applications rise for new homes. So we are seeing more purchases of new homes, or applications to purchase new homes.
So they're going
it rose 6%. Joel Kahn, he's the Associate Vice President of Economic and Industry Forecasting at the Mortgage Bankers Association. He noted in a statement that purchase activity in October was dominated by higher mortgage loan balance transactions, pushing the average new home loan size to $412,000.
Wow.
Which adds
just
a
in
lot.
The last year and a half, that's gone up 75 grand at least.
Yeah, that's a lot. Recent U.S. Census data shows the increasing share of new sales are homes yet to be built, still under construction. So people are not finding, maybe they're not finding in some markets the properties that they want because they're being grabbed by institutional investors, at least 2% of them.
Or maybe it's
20, maybe 20% that Tim said.
Or maybe in some areas, or maybe it's that what Dr. Horton himself said.
That got me. I was like, Doctor who? Oh,
Dr. Horton got, what he said about they're waiting till later in the process to actually list their homes and actually sell them. So maybe it's partially that's causing the delay. But I found that very interesting that they're doing that, because I never really thought about it. That it's usually look at the model. It's going to take us 6 months to finish your house. during the run, it was like 9 months, a year. I don't, we don't
Yeah.
know. But instead they adjusted and like, well, it's just not available. But when it's almost done, we're going to know, okay, your house is going to be done in a month and a half. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And that article, by the way, was from Housing Wire. I forgot to display that one. Sorry for my producer actions. Next, we have mortgage refinance. So refinances, if you recall, in the beginning of 2020 went nuts when rates dropped. Rates are starting to go back up now. And so mortgage refinance demand continues to free fall as interest rates rise again. We know from historically, just from doing this news, that mortgage rates are super tied to, or refinance, the amount of refinance is super tied to mortgage rates. So refinance demand fell 5% for the week and was 31% lower than the same week a year ago. That's because the average interest rates on a 30-year fixed mortgage with conforming loan balance of $548,000 increased to 3.2%. From a whopping 3.16%. So it increased 0.04%. But that was enough to quench the thirst of those looking for refinances in the meantime. All right. Next up, I'm like flying through these.
These, Ray and I were doing the rundown kind of as I was making my notes.
There's a lot of news. A lot of news.
We just need to get it out there. These people need to be informed, Ray.
Yeah, we got to inform.
Wait.
What
does that open house arrow look like? The arrow when you're on like a picture that has the next picture, you click that arrow.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
It's the caret on your keyboard. It's the, what is that called? The little bracket. It's just a bracket.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like it.
National Association of Realtors passes a listing attribution policy. This was a little bit confusing. If you saw the early news in this, you saw that they were this policy was stricken from a larger bill that they passed, and then updated story. Oh, we passed this policy alone, separate.
Right. And then because I sent Ray two like back to back. One was it's been stricken. Oh, they passed it easily.
Yeah. And so that's this one. National Association of Realtors passes listing attribution policy easily. 3/4 of the National Association of Realtors directors voted to require display of listing broker contact information on agent and broker websites.
Right. Which is
great,
I mean, right?
Yeah. So, you would think like, so as soon as I heard this, I thought, oh no, people are going to be like, ooh, Zillow has to display the listing agent's information now. Ooh.
But they did.
So Zillow's been in favor of this
right
for a long time. And they said, we've been doing this. We've been displaying the listing agent's information on all of our stuff. And there's a couple of other major companies that are. One surprising company that was against it was Remax. So they came out against it. But basically what it's going to do, if you have, and it's probably the change, like this impacts if you have created your own IDX feed and you have created your own website and you have all of your own stuff going, there's going to be some cost associated with this change. So maybe they weren't for it because of that. Who knows? But basically, now any property that displays on your personal website that you have, that your buyers go to and they search for a home on your website instead of Zillow because yours is more tied to the MLS, whatever you tell them, that website is going to have to now display not only the name of the broker, but the contact information of that broker. There are a couple of different versions of this that were tried to be passed. One of them said that the contact information needs to be as big or as large as any other contact information on that website. That is nearly impossible to police and very difficult. So they said, no, we're not going to do that. The other part of this is that they said that it would have to have the agent information and the agent phone number, email. And they said, no. We're just going to use whatever the MLS provides as the primary contact information for that listing.
Because all they're doing is they're pulling a field and displaying that field. Whatever's in that field, they're displaying that. That's it.
Right. So yeah, Remax came out against it, retracted the leading real estate companies of the world, retracted their support in favor of a neutral stance. But Realogy, who is Coldwell Banker, Century 21, yada, 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 Berkshire Hathaway, and Zillow came out in favor of the policy before the committee meeting. Zillow believes that transparency, innovation, and consumer choice are positive, not only for home buyers and sellers, but for real estate industry overall. We for years have displayed the seller's agent and brokers on listings of consumers for consumers to use if they choose. So they approved it with a slight amendment that's suggested by the trade group's executive committee, which is a subset of the board. While the MLS continued to approve requiring the display of, quote, listing participant identified email or phone number. So that's what you have to display.
So can I ask that question? So
the
if I
email
have,
or phone number provided by the listing participant.
so if I have my own website, what does that mean for me to do? Do I have to go back to my web developer and say, hey, you got to add this field or these two fields? I need a name and I need an email address.
So in my experience, your IDX feed can usually add additional fields. They just have to match them up. It's like if you were to take your database and then import it into another
You're just pulling
CRM,
it from an Excel doc.
You just got to say, well, this thing means this thing, and here's how I want it to display on the website.
Yeah,
so that's basically what they have to do now. It shouldn't be a big deal. As a matter of fact, I asked Glenda Baker about it, and she said in Georgia they've been doing that for years. So I think there's probably a lot of the major CRMs or the major website developers that are already geared up for this. It's just going to be a slight change in how it's displayed. So anyway, we're covering that because, we're not an incendiary, well, except for the Forburned. We're not an incendiary podcast or whatever, but I was seeing a lot of chatter about that. And it's kind of a non-news story in reality, but it's important for you to know as real estate agents so that you can be prepared and you can have that information so that you're in full compliance, because our listeners should not get in trouble. They're going to look into your web history and say, wait, you subscribe to the Bearded Men of Real Estate show, This Week in Real Estate? Then you should definitely know that. All right, so let's talk FHA. If I can get the right, live producing here. Let's talk FHA. Got two more short articles to cover. Oh, good. Ron Bruno's here. You might flash your mic if you're aware of the manufactured loan program and the facelift of it. And I'll let you wax poetic on this. So this article comes to us from Housing Wire. It says FHA's manufactured housing loan program gets a facelift. Changes include the expansion of allowable income resources for borrowers vying for FHA insured manufactured housing loan. Let's see. In September, Biden's administration also called the state and local governments to, quote, reduce zoning and financing barriers to these kinds of housing. We're talking about manufactured housing that allows family to achieve home ownership and build wealth. With renewed attention to the manufactured space, the FHA moved this week to provide updated guidance to its Title I loan program, making it easier to understand for the lenders. Title I program ensures the mortgage loans made by private lending institutions to finance the purchase of a new or used manufactured home. So they're clarifying it. What else are they doing for this? Additionally, the administration is expanding allowable income sources for borrowers, consistent with the criteria for income and property valuations used in real estate mortgage financing. So they're expanding the ways that someone can get paid in order to purchase a home, and they're making the definition of how the Title I program works more clear to lenders. And
can I ask you a question, Ray?
Yeah.
This is yet another thing to help more people buy houses.
But it's for them to help buy manufactured houses. So
I know.
You just manufacture more of them.
When are we going to see something that helps sellers?
Yeah. The nation,
we are in a crisis right now. We need more inventory. Come up with something that incentivizes sellers, please.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Lupa Kaluri, the principal deputy assistant and secretary for housing in the FHA, said, this nation is in an affordable housing crisis, and manufactured housing will be a key part of the solution. Our new update.
Not if people aren't going to sell them, though.
A new and updated Title I policies will not only expand access to credit for borrowers seeking loans to qualify for the affordable personal property manufactured homes, but will also make it easier for lenders to offer financing through the Title I program. So you could say that by creating more of a market in manufactured housing, tiny housing, and then in that scope, because manufactured housing is not just like a mobile home on wheels. There's a lot of definitions of manufactured housing. So by creating more of a market, meaning that now more people have access to funds to purchase, it could be or should be more attractive now for manufactured housing makers to make a variety of manufactured homes that might be more attractive to the marketplace in general. And if you do that, now the affordable housing becomes much, much more affordable because you have more buyers and you have more supply that's hopefully quickly put out there. So
that was an amazing pontification, my friend.
thank you. I really tried to expand that and play the other side for you.
Right. You didn't agree with the other side, but you tried. You really tried. I appreciate it.
We'll see what happens. I just know they're not going to give money for people to sell a house. Because the people that sell houses are, what would
What if
happen?
they took less money?
You know what would happen if they did that? They'd be like, oh, everyone that's experienced all this generational wealth is now making money off the government for selling assets that were passed down. That's
right. So here, let's run through that scenario real quick. And I know people are just listening, but let's run through that. Someone in a government office somewhere came up with an idea.
Yeah.
And then someone at the ethics and whatever committee went, okay, but wait. We're going to get complaints from the generational wealth people, blah, blah, blah. And so it's been shot down. They're just trying to figure out the verbiage, how to get through it.
There's no way they could do it.
That's good. That's good.
All right. Speaking of sneaky legal stuff, America's most famous squatter is finally evicted. Long Island man, 52.
He's only 52?
Yeah. He went more than 2 decades without paying a penny on his mortgage. He's given the boot finally.
So he was under 30 when he moved in.
Bold move, Cotton.
Let's see if it works out for him.
It has until
it's worked out great for him.
So we're just gonna look at some pictures. We covered this guy. I mean, he used legal maneuvers and all kinds of stuff to stay in this house. Let's see, he's 52, living in his 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath East Meadow home for free for over 20 years. He was locked out of his home Friday and his stuff removed. This is what the house looked like.
Wait though.
Huh?
You can lock him out of the house. You can't take his stuff out. It's his stuff.
No, they did remove his stuff.
But they can't. That's his stuff.
Yeah, but if your stuff is on land that's not yours, they can remove your stuff.
Fair point.
Here's
like finally.
Yeah, there's a note about the warrant of eviction. This is the house. And it's I would say it's a yellow house. It's split level. Do y'all call that split level where the stairs is in the middle?
Multi-level? Yeah. That's my favorite floor plan. I love split level homes.
I can't stand them. So you walk up to the middle of the house to the door, and you open this door, and there's stairs that go up and down.
Okay, I don't necessarily like that part. I like when it goes to a floor, and then you kind of have upstairs that way off of that floor. Maybe it's like kitchen and living room on that floor, and then yeah. But yeah, I get you.
Ryan Bokro says writ of possession. Boom. Melissa Mara chimes in with finally.
So by the way, look
the OGs, the BMORE OGs know about this guy.
They're literally the OGs from day one. Look at back to that under that picture right there. 3 different owners have tried to kick him out. 3 different ones in the last 23 years.
Yeah. So they said that the guy didn't pay on his mortgage, but he also didn't pay any rental agreements either. Because the home was foreclosed and sold, and then the people bought it, and he was still living there, and they could not evict him. This is what the interior looks like. I assume after they removed the stuff, pink carpet. It's as disheveled as you might imagine, with all kinds of stains, white walls.
Wait, so he bought it and never paid on it? Then it was sold, and he stayed there anyway?
Sold 3 different owners.
He was the original owner?
Yeah. He didn't pay his mortgage.
Dude, this guy's a hero.
Yeah. So following his move, the other occupants of the home whom rented to also filed bankruptcy claims, legal actions, and stopped paying rent. And
then the Rona hit, and he was like, yes.
Yeah, 3 different owners who tried to kick him out. It was foreclosed on by Washington Mutual in 2000. He's managed to avoid eviction numerous times by drowning each of the 3 owners in legal actions and preventing the court's rules to his favor, often skipping out on court dates.
This dude is a legend. And by the way, there you go. Scap says it's called a split foyer.
Split foyer if you're from Georgia.
That's a split foyer.
Yeah, it's split foyer. I don't like the split foyer.
Funny.
Yeah, David Fresco says good for him for staying 2 decades. Bankers are far more egregious.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Do it.
Matt Lamar says, you mean he didn't take care of that place that didn't belong to him? Doesn't sound like a renter to me.
Weird. Well, it did originally belong to him. He didn't take care of it then either.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, can I
So,
make?
so in
Maybe I should.
April, Hanspal and another resident filed a COVID-19 hardship. Oh, I should have said Pandy 19 hardship. The declaration protects tenants who are struggling financially due to the Pandy. 7 months later, someone was killed in a crash. Oh, the person that was with him was killed in a crash.
What does it
A
say
lawyer
that-
attempted to use the death in court to argue that the estate should qualify for eviction protection.
Oh my god!
Wow. He even used the guys that was living with him's death to claim eviction protection. Wow, man. That's whew. Anyway, we're seeing more photos of the backyard. It's just got stuff everywhere. Oh,
Yeah.
Interior of the house, ceiling falling off. This is probably the basement.
It's about what you would imagine. For those of you following along on Clubhouse, it's about what you'd imagine.
Stuff everywhere. So that's all right. That's the tea, sis.
I mean, I don't know if I should actually say this on the show, but when they showed the picture of the guy, if you were just to tell someone this story and then have them draw a random picture of the guy they thought was the guy that stayed in this house for 23 years, he looks like that guy.
You just kind of look like a guy that
he looks like the guy that would do that.
He was pretty disheveled.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we pondered what the house would look like inside, it's on pace with what we guessed, what we speculated.
Yeah, it's almost exactly what we guessed. We knew that it wouldn't be prim and proper.
I mean, hey, I want to know what he's going to be up to now. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, where to now? And with that on his record, does that go in a background check? So if another landlord checks his background, are they going to be like, oh, this guy seems good, he seems legit, and then man, he just starts it all over for the next 50 years?
In 5 more years when we're still doing the show, remember that guy?
Right, you guys remember?
We
talked about this guy 5 years ago. He's now 5 years into a new situation. Yeah. All right.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think the dude's a legend. I can't wait. Yeah, no rental history. That you don't need it. You don't need you don't need to show your rental history anymore. You just it's discriminatory. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna sue up front because it's discriminatory to ask for my rental.
You have to let me live here because, and then once he's in, here we go.
That's now my rental history, and then he starts all over.
So this is just an interesting side note, and then I got to jump on a call. Interesting side note. I had one time a client that was moving here. They had all their stuff loaded up. They had several kids, and the seller was like, well, I'm not leaving. And I told the agent, the seller has to leave because they're supposed to get out of the property today. Today's closing day. They have to get out of the property. My people are coming. They're going to be there shortly. And the agent was like, well, sorry, man, I forgot to tell him, but they're not leaving, or tell her. But so she's not leaving. I was like, no, you don't understand. My people will be there. And he's like, well, they can't get in. I was like, they can get in because they have a key because they closed.
Yeah.
And he said, so what are they going to do? So I called my clients, and my clients were like, well, that's fine. She can just stay on the couch. Oh, I called the other guy. I called the other agent. I was like, hey, man, we've worked it out. It's totally fine. She can just stay on the couch. It was just complete silence on the phone. He was like, what do you mean she could stay on the couch? I was like, well, they're going to be there in about 4 hours. They're going to unload everything. That's fine. They'll move her stuff into the garage as they move their stuff in.
She can sleep on the couch.
She's welcome to stay on the couch. They have too many kids, so all the bedrooms are full, but she's welcome to stay on the couch for as long as she needs to. He's like, your people can't move in on top. I'm like, actually, yeah. I mean, they own it. They're totally fine with her being there.
Yeah.
As a guest for a little while.
So do you guys have it? Yeah, it's a free rent back. And then
so they miraculously she moved in 4 hours.
So I've had 2 of those in my career. And do you have it in yours? So ours is possession, and it says it on the MLS. It says when possession is. It's part of the contract, and it's 3 days, meaning 72 hours. So if ours is when it records title. I don't know when it triggers. It's not when we close escrow. It's when we record title. So that's when the ticker starts ticking. So if it's at 1 p.m. on a Friday, it's now Saturday, Sunday, Monday at 1 p.m. They have to be out. And I had one. This was an interesting one because the seller in our counter said, so we offered, and this is 2.5, 3 years ago. We offered, and they countered with other terms. And one of the terms was, we want 1 day to vacate, 1 day plus 1 day, close escrow plus 1 day to vacate. So then we close, and the listing agent called me and said, he's not going to be out tomorrow. And I said, well, you wanted the 1 day, you got the 1 day. And he's like, well, he's not leaving. So I called my broker. I called my broker and I said, what do we do? He goes, get the sheriffs down there right at 1 p.m. because it's then your house. Take the key out of the lockbox and change the locks. Miraculously, that guy was done by 1 p.m.
Yeah, they got out of there so fast when that happens. Yeah, it's interesting.
Good times.
Well, speaking of moving on, time for us to move on.
And if you have any other horror stories, share them down low because we need comments. Give us plenty of comments.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you guys for checking us out. Please be sure that you subscribe to the show. If you're on Clubhouse, don't forget to follow the Real Estate Networking Club. That's a little greenhouse at the top. And also hit the little podcast link that I have in there so you guys can subscribe to the podcast. We'd love it also if you'd leave some stars for us so that other people can find it too.
Yeah.
And Dan, could you tell people where they can find you?
DLudgrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS, everywhere, but most importantly on Cash App.
And I'm Ray Zorback. That's RAYZORBACK. Everywhere good Razorbacks are sold: Instagram, Facebook, OnlyFans, wherever. So you guys check us there, and we will see you
on that bombshell
next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Move on quick.